It's like an Easter egg hunt. Honestly, this is gonna be rough. Hey, welcome to Garden Hands. I am super duper excited today. We are putting some ranunculus in the ground finally. I shouldn't say finally. This is the first time that I've ever put them in the ground this early, but I feel like I'm putting them in the ground a little bit more on the timeline that they would prefer. Super excited. So right next to me is this plastic hoop house that I set up in a video a couple weeks ago, and it has been an utter nightmare. I can talk a little bit about what I did, what went wrong, what I might do next year, or if I'm just gonna cash it in and, well, not really cash it in, but kind of just pitch the idea. We are looking at an extended forecast that is beautiful. I'm actually gonna put up on the screen what we have had a week ago, what it was the past 3 days, what it is today, and what the extended forecast is for the next 10 or so days. We went from nasty 8 inches of snow and freezing to next week it's in the 70s. In the Midwest, we know this is just a false spring, so I'm sure it'll dip back down into the colder weather. I'm sure we'll see snow again, but this is kind of exciting. Ranunculus like cool weather, so they want to get in the ground. As long as it's above 28 at night, they can go in the ground. They prefer that it's cool during the day. They like full sun, but they don't want to be out here when it's 95 degrees. So this is kind of the perfect time for them to go in. It's early April, and I've had the plants growing in my basement under grow lights for a couple months, I think. So they are pretty well established. They're ready to go in. Let's see how it goes. I'm hoping that I will have more blooms this year than I've had in the past. And I'm super excited. They're such a beautiful flower. I can't wait to have more of them. And let's take a look at what's inside this little hoop house we got going here. So you saw me pick up a couple of those little plastic clips as I was walking out here. That was method number 2 that I tried, and I have a feeling I'm going to need to find several more before all is said and done. They just kind of clip onto the PVC pipe here, but when the wind comes and blows the plastic really taut, they just pop right off. So that didn't really work. I then ended with rocks. I went and sourced many wheelbarrowfuls of rocks from the woods, and that seemed to have helped. However, when we had the 25-mile-an-hour winds for an entire day, it was a little bit brutal. I came out here 3 times that day to fix the rock situation. So not foolproof. I don't know if I'll do it again. It's been a little bit of a hassle. It didn't blow over. The rebar held in place. The PVC pipes held in place. The plastic never actually blew all the way off. It did come off one entire side and was just hanging on the far side over there. But yeah, we'll see. The good news is that the plastic is still on. It's been on for a couple days. Move these awesome rocks out of the way here. Give ourselves a door. And let's move one more. The hoop house. There we go. Okay. So let's crawl into here and take a look. I feel like I'm in a little bit of a horror movie in here. We've got all this plastic. It's like crime scene plastic. This bed is 20 feet long and 4 feet wide. And I had put landscape fabric down last year. There's also drip irrigation tape already down. I don't intend to turn that on anytime soon, but it's here should I need it. I also have holes burned into this landscape fabric, and this looks like the 6-inch spacing. I have seen flower farmers that do ranunculus closer, and I don't see a reason why you couldn't. They don't need a ton of space to grow. You know, somewhere between 6 and 8 inches spacing is probably fine. I am not going to be staking these up or netting them up. I haven't done that in the past. I know that some flower farmers do and some don't. And I don't know. We'll see. If I end up growing enough ranunculus this year that it seems like I should have netted them or staked them up, then that might be something I revisit or make a note of for next year. You'll notice I have the little dangly guy here, that's actually telling me the temperature. So I brought this out. Let's see if we can see it. Okay, so the top number is the temperature in here right now. It's 60, let's say 63 degrees in here. It's 5 o'clock at night. Ignore the time on here, that's wrong. It's 5 o'clock at night and it's probably 40 degrees outside. So the hoop house is keeping it about 20 degrees warmer during the day, sometimes more than that if the sun is on it. And at night, I've been keeping track of it for the last few nights. It keeps it about 5 degrees warmer than the ambient air temperature outside. So a little bit of protection at night, and it definitely heats up during the day. One of the other reasons I wanted to get this set up was because it's going to provide a little bit of wind protection early on when the plants are just getting into the ground. And then it's also going to help warm up the ground a little bit quicker. That wasn't a huge concern this year. I probably could have got the hoop house out 3 weeks earlier, and then it would have played a bigger part because we had so much snow on the ground. But this year the frost line wasn't real deep. So actually actually the ground was pretty workable when I got the hoop house started, which means based on the forecast that you saw earlier on the screen, I may not need the hoop house after this week. I probably don't even need it at all. If the forecast kind of stays how it looks, I won't need it at all. I could probably take it off or put something else in here that likes a little bit more protection. The ranunculus would be fine outside based on the forecast. All right, so my plan is bring the ranunculus in. I'm gonna start at the back, the far end down there, and work my way forward. I don't know how many ranunculus I have. I'm just gonna kind of keep bringing trays out until this is filled up. I have a few other cool season flowers that I could put out here, like stock. I have some snapdragons that are started. I could also put some of those out here. I think it kind of just depends. Right now the ranunculus are actually taking up the most room under my grow lights. Some of them are in these 4-inch pots, and you know, these are still what, 2-inch pots or 3-inch? I don't know the measurements of these, but they're taking up the most room under the lights. So I'm kind of thinking I'm just going to plant as many of these ranunculus as I can, see how far it takes me. And if I run out of room under the hoop house, I can start planting them in my other rows I have out here. You might have heard us mention in a couple of videos already this year that we kind of fell off the face of YouTube last year a little bit during the summer and the fall months. And it was for all good reasons. There was nothing bad that happened, but we got really busy with a couple projects, and you know, the editor fell behind, to be quite honest. One of the projects that we were really busy with involves why I have the hoop house and why I'm growing so many more flowers this year. So many flowers for me. I mean, this is still a very small scale, but this is a garden bed that I worked on setting up. Well, not me, that we worked on setting up last year, and it has a great story that goes along with it. So a lot of our videos this coming summer will be about how we're setting up this, I don't want to call it a cut flower farm, but there's a lot of cut flowers going on here. So this new garden bed that was installed last year has been an absolute joy. It's been really fun for planning purposes. I love crunching numbers, figuring out how many flowers can go in each of these rows and what varieties I'm going to plant and what kind of staking methods do they need, what kind of watering do they need, and how do we make it all work. And one of the things that meant is growing a lot more flowers. It's been really fun getting to try a couple new varieties or different colors of a variety. Absolutely love that. It's been so much fun. I'm looking forward to learning from the lessons I learned last year and making some changes this year and making it an even bigger and better year. It's really vague, I understand. We'll talk about it in another video. This video is about planting the ranunculus, but I did want to explain why I'm planting so many ranunculus and in a row and under a tunnel, because I could just put them out in the landscape somewhere and they'd be absolutely beautiful, and I probably will do that with some of them, but these have a purpose. Let's go plant the ranunculus. Supplies I've got today, I've got the ranunculus that I started. I've got gardening gloves because it's probably pretty muddy, and then just a gardening tool, like a, wow, it's the first day of planting in the spring and I can't remember what anything is called. a trowel. Thank you. There we go. A trowel. Gloves, trowel, plants. Let's get to it. Oh, poo. I brought 2 left gloves out too. Seriously, I'm having a heck of a time today. Okay, so this variety is Almondine White. My plants in general look really good. I planted them on the 18th of February and they have tons of green growth. I do have some that are a little bit yellow on the edges. This one actually isn't bad. This one's not too bad, but another tray has some more yellow. Whether they were too far away from the light or maybe, you know, they missed out on a fertilizer feeding, they probably would benefit from getting in the ground sooner rather than later and living their best life out here. Let's take it out. Yep, perfect growth. Look at that. So good. So happy with this. All I'm going to do is plant them in the ground. I will keep them at the soil level they're at right now. If you were to be planting corms out, I think Ranunculus are planted 2 inches deep. So that's what you'd be looking to do. I'll start at the back and then get as far forward as I can before I plant my next variety. And I think I didn't plan this out very well. I told myself I was going to do a good job of that this year because last year my colors and my labeling went all to shambles with the greenhouse tipping over. I told myself this year I'm going to do a really good job making sure I keep all of my, for instance, Almondine White together. I've already screwed that up because I have Almondine White sitting in the basement still. Oh well. Now we had 8 inches of snow and yet these weeds can hang on. They can still look kind of green and nothing else does. Now, because it's going to be 60, 70 degrees in the next 10 days, and consistently too. We were at 40 some degrees today. It's just going to keep going up, up, up. And again, I'm sure this is temporary. We will have cold weather again because that's how it rolls out here. But I might have to actually watch how warm it gets in here. I may find that I need to lift up the sides on this or take the plastic off during the day and maybe just put frost cloth over them at night if it's going to get really cold. But it could be very possible that they don't need any of this. Last year, I think part of this bed was used for sunflowers and I just left a lot of the stalks in the ground just to decompose over the winter. I thought that would keep the nutrients in the soil, save a little bit of work on my end. Win-win. I should have the kids do this. They'd fit under there better. All right, the next variety, Chamalo, like marshmallow. This variety is absolutely beautiful. I was not able to get any of these, come on, last year, but I'm super excited that I think I have 20 corms of these. Wonder if I should look at my stock when I go in tonight, so if I plant tomorrow, I can color block. All right, so you can kind of see on this, actually I can't see the camera, but you can kind of see this one's it has a lot less foliage on it. The roots might be really strong in it. It's in a bigger pot, so I'm gonna have to do a little more finagling with the soil. Wet. And really I'm just trying to keep the roots intact and not too terribly disturbed or ripped up. I don't need to include all of the soil that was in the original pot. One thing I don't think I mentioned earlier was how I was hardening off these ranunculus. So I started pre-sprouting these mid-February in my basement under grow lights, and I potted them up several weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, and all I really did was move them to my garage, which was probably 40 degrees for a day or two, and then over the past couple days I've been moving them in and out of the garage as I remember to. It's about 40 degrees outside. It was about 40 degrees in my garage. Ranunculus like it cold. I think they'll be okay if I don't give them a full week of hardening off or, you know, diligently getting them to the temperature that they need to be at. I think they prefer to probably be outside where it's a little cooler versus in the house where it's warmer. The one thing I do want to say is that I showed Mom the hoop house, or underneath the hoop house, and she said, well, how are you going to water them? Fair question, and I have no idea. I have drip tubing out here, and last year what I did was run a hose from the house out to the cut flower garden, and all the rows that have drip tubing were watered that way. But I don't want to do that right now because there are a lot of rows that have nothing in them. I think what I'm going to end up doing is bringing a 5-gallon bucket out here and maybe a smaller pail, or if I fill my gardening can or my watering can, that's going to be a lot of trips back and forth. So combination of buckets, watering can, and you know, hopefully I won't have to do it too many times, or maybe in the next week or so I can start using the hose outside. Well, I have all of my pre-sprouted ranunculus planted. The low tunnel is not quite full. I have a little bit of room that I can put my anemones out here, which I'll probably do tomorrow. And I'm excited to see what happens. The next time you see these guys will probably be if we do a garden tour or a walkthrough of what we have planted in a couple weeks, or as they are about to head out to somebody who needs a bouquet of flowers. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later, but beautiful things to come, that's for sure. Thank you so much for sticking with me. I hope you have a fantastic day, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.